Welcome! We are excited to share our easy how-to guide for creating online activities using an on-screen whiteboard. Over the next several minutes, you will learn how to use an online whiteboard to create dynamic and engaging activities that will motivate both you and your students. Many online educators are somewhat familiar with online whiteboards, perhaps one that is built into your video conferencing platform. And most folks just use a whiteboard for really basic drawing activities on the screen. But here, we are going to get much more creative and show you how to utilize an online whiteboard to really suit your particular needs and create innovative and dynamic activities for you and your students. For this demonstration, we are using a free online whiteboard called Miro. There are other options such as Jamboards through Google that have some similar features, but this is one that works well and has a free option with great features. So when you're ready, you can go to Miro.com and click to sign up or get started. You can enter your information and register for a free account. The site may ask you if you want to join a group account or create an individual account. The group option is more geared toward business groups that are collaborating on a project. So for most therapist users, the individual account would make the most sense. You will likely be able to have all the board space and features you need using just the free option, and that is what we'll demonstrate here. This site will at times go through different upgrades and changes, so your page may look a little different from what you see here, but the overall functionality should be generally the same. So once you have created your free account and you log in, you will see the option to create a board. With the free account that I have here, I have 3 whiteboards included, and each board is quite expansive, so 3 boards is really quite a lot of space. When you first begin, you won't have any boards here, and you can just click to create a new board. I'm going to go to my language board that I have created here so that you can get a picture of what an online whiteboard might look like. You can see when you open the board that it has a large open space to work with. Mine is filled up with several activities because I've used it quite a bit, but you can see that it's really an expansive space. Now let's go over some of the basic tools in a whiteboard. Depending on the type of online whiteboard you're using, your features may be a little different and you may access them in a different way. But I'll give you an overview of how to use the basic tools here to give you an idea of how this works. In this whiteboard, you can access a zoom and navigation feature so that you can easily move around your board. You can click to expand the options, then click to zoom in or out as needed. You can also just click directly on the screen and drag your board around to move to the spot where you want to be. And in this particular type of whiteboard, you can use a touchscreen, mouse, or a trackpad to move around the board. And you can click to adjust your navigation settings if needed. One very handy tool of the whiteboard is on-screen writing. You can use the pen tool to write or draw on the online board just as you would use markers on a tangible whiteboard. This online board has many options for colors that you can choose from, and you have even more choices if you choose to customize the color. Here you also have the option to change the size or thickness of your drawing with the slider bar. With this particular online whiteboard, you can make your marker or pen very thin, or you can make a heavier line. It's customizable for you. And you can use the erase feature if you want to erase your drawings. In a teletherapy session, you can give keyboard and mouse control to your student or client through your online meeting platform. That way, the student can write or draw directly on the whiteboard if you would like for them to. The next feature we'll review is the line or connection tool. And this particular type of whiteboard offers a few options for the connection tool with a line or arrow. I can click to insert an arrow, for example, and drag to make the arrow connect various items. I can customize it by changing the size or the color. You can see here I've already created some basic arrows or connections to examples of people, places, and things. This was used when targeting the concept of nouns and parts of speech with students in a previous session. Let's create another connection line right now so that you can see more about how this works. I can click and insert my connection arrow. Again, there are lots of options to customize the type of line and the color depending on your choice or on the student's choice. The great thing about this tool is that it's not a simple arrow or line, it's a connection between items on the board. So no matter where I move these items, they will stay connected. And this can be a really useful tool for making visual connections for the student between items or concepts on the screen. Next, let's take a look at the shape tool. You can click to insert various shapes on your board and drag out to make your shape smaller or larger. In this particular type of online whiteboard, you can select the thickness of the outline and you can even click to make the shape filled in with a color. It's set here automatically to be transparent in the center, but you can click to fill it in if you wish. And you have lots of options to customize the colors of your shape. Here's another example of a shape with a star this time, and you can type directly in the shape if you like. You can then edit the size of your text, the font, or the color to make it look the way you would like. As you can see, this can be applied for targeting shape and color vocabulary, or there are many more applications where you can use the shape tool as part of therapy tasks. And I'll show you a simple example here of where I have used the shape tool in a very basic way to complete a teletherapy activity. Here I used the circle shape to create a simple Venn diagram. In this activity, I had read an online passage with the student, and then we discussed aspects of the passage to target some of his language goals. I created this basic Venn diagram, and we were able to talk about concepts of comparing and contrasting elements from the story in a really visual way. You can also create callouts or word bubbles with this shape tool. So just like before, you can click to select the shape you want to insert, then click on the board and drag out to make it the desired size. You can change the look of the shape by editing the outline or the color. And again, you can type directly in the shape. So you can type directly in the speech bubble here. Again, you can edit the color of the text and the size to make it look the way that you want. So let's look at a real world example of how you might use speech bubbles like this during an online session. This is a social language activity about making connected comments using the speech bubble feature. So I set up a character here and she says, "Hey, I'm going to do something really awesome for the science project." And in this scenario, the boy responds by saying, "I'm so excited about my new dog." And then I used the shape tool again to show what she is thinking. And here she's thinking, "What? Why are you talking about your dog?" And so then you could work with the student to talk about a more appropriate, on topic response, such as this. The boy says, "Cool, what is it? What are you doing for your science project?" And she says, "I'm making a model of a T Rex." So that's just a quick example of a practical way you might use the speech bubbles for your online therapy sessions. Now, let's review the sticky note feature that's available in this particular type of online whiteboard. And this is a really fun feature. You can select sticky note from the toolbar and then click on your screen to create what looks like a real sticky note. As with the other features, you have the option to change the color and customize it for your board, and you can type directly on the sticky note. Now, let's look at a practical application of how you might use this feature in a teletherapy session. Here I have an activity that I created, a social skills activity related to understanding what is appropriate in various social scenarios. So you could really tailor the content to what your student needs to work on to address their therapy goals. This one is focused on what is an appropriate response or action depending on the type of person they're interacting with, such as family, friends, or strangers. And you can see that the template for this activity was created using the shape tool that we just looked at. I simply created rectangles with various colors and layered them on top of each other to make this template. But really, you could make it as intricate or keep it as simple as you want. So I set up the template with the shape tool, then created the sticky notes. The notes can easily be moved around the board. You could have the student put the notes in the appropriate slot. So you could work through the activity, talking with the student or client about these actions. For example, you could talk through how it's appropriate to hug family members, but not okay to hug strangers. In your teletherapy session, you can give the student control of the keyboard and mouse so that they could move the notes or objects around the board. And you can utilize this for a wide variety of tasks. For example, if you were in a counseling session, you might use the sticky notes to prioritize items or label feelings. And you could use them to categorize items or words. You can really get creative with it, and the sticky notes are just a fun item to use. The next feature we'll review is the text box. On this particular type of whiteboard, you can click on the text box feature from the toolbar, then click anywhere on your screen and begin typing. Just like the other features, you can edit the size and color. You can also create a background color if you like, or you can leave it transparent. And you can edit the text to be bold or in italics or underline. It's completely customizable. In the toolbar here, there's also a pointer or select option. You can use this button to toggle back and forth between the hand tool, which lets you grab the screen and move around your board, and the pointer option. With the pointer engaged, you can select items on your screen and then drag them to a new spot if you would like. You can also select an item with the pointer and then click Delete on your keyboard to remove it from the whiteboard. At any time, you can click to return to the home screen, and everything is saved automatically in the whiteboard. So if you have a couple of boards set up, like I do here, you could exit out of one board and go into another easily without worrying that something isn't saved. I'm going to click to enter another one of my whiteboards. This one is an articulation board for speech therapy, and it also has some fluency items. I'm zoomed pretty far out so that you can get an aerial view, and then I can zoom in on the particular item I want to display. You can see that I've used text boxes to create some basic labels here to give myself a bit of organization. In using a whiteboard with students, I've tended to create activities and then leave them on my board so that I can use them again and again. So this whiteboard here has lots of items and activities spread around the board. But you could create a drawing or activity on your whiteboard and immediately erase it if you want. It's up to you and whatever works best for you and your students in your teletherapy sessions. And it will depend on the type of online whiteboard you use and what features there are available. With the example I'm using here, you can store items and activities for continued use, but that may not be the case with all online whiteboards. Now, let's take a look at how to upload materials to your whiteboard. Not all online whiteboards have an upload feature, but this one does have that feature in the toolbar, and it's a really useful tool for creating online therapy activities. The upload option may look a little different on your computer, but the process should work basically the same if you're using this type of online whiteboard. So one option here is that you can click to upload an item directly from your computer. So if you have materials saved on your computer, such as scanned worksheets or an activity you've created yourself, you can click to upload from your device and then select the item from your computer, and it will populate automatically on the whiteboard. Another really handy feature here is to upload items via URL. So let's take a look at how you can create a dynamic therapy activity using this feature. If you want to use the URL upload feature, you can open a new tab. For example, I have a tab open here to Speaking of Speech, which houses online therapy resources. I can click to find an activity that I want to use in the session with my student. This is a speech therapy example with an articulation activity. So if my student was working on the F sound, I might take a look at this F bingo activity. There are a few bingo board options here that I can view and see if it's something that would be appropriate for my student and his or her goals. So if I take a look and say, yes, this would be great for my session, then I can transfer it to my whiteboard. I can go up to my URL bar, highlight the web address or URL, and click to copy it. So that's Control or Command C on your computer keyboard. Tab back over to your whiteboard. We want to upload via URL, then paste the link here. So that's Control or Command V on your computer. And then it's going to pop up here directly on my board. Now I have the bingo board here on my whiteboard. Now, if I want to play with the student or I want two students to play against each other during a group session, then I would need another board. So I'm going to swing back over to the resource site I'm using and grab a second bingo board. Once again, I highlight the URL or the web address and click Control or Command C to copy it. Then tab back over to my whiteboard, select to upload from the toolbar and upload via URL. I'll use Control or Command V to paste in the web address, and my second bingo board will populate here. Then I can move the bingo board over and situate it the way I would like. Now, if we want to play the game during a therapy session, we'll need some kind of tokens to be able to really play interactively. And one fun way we can do that here is with the icon finder. So let's take a quick look at that feature. You can find it on the toolbar and click Icon Finder to search from a huge library of fun cartoons and images. Now, back to our bingo activity for an example. So maybe my student really likes butterflies. So I can type in butterfly and find a ton of different pictures. And you can click on any of the items you want and they will automatically insert into your whiteboard. Or maybe my student really loves superheroes. So I can type that into the search bar of the icon finder and sort through all the different superhero images. So if my student wants to use these for his or her tokens, then we can select the ones we want and move them around, line them up on the board so that we can use them for our tokens. There are tons of options with the icon finder. You can really type anything you want to look for in the search bar and see what you can find. Angry birds, aliens, minions. You can really choose something that will motivate your student or let them control the mouse and get engaged by choosing the tokens themselves. So once we have our bingo boards and tokens all set up, then we can play the game. The student can click directly on the screen to move the tokens around. You could describe an item for the student. So you might say, I see something that is a utensil and we use it to cut. What is it? Then the student can practice saying the word knife with the F sound. They can say the word a predetermined number of times or put it in a sentence, whatever you need them to do. And once they say it correctly, then they can cover that space with a token. You can do the same on your board and take turns describing items and covering them up until there's a winner. So as you can see, the whiteboard allows you to take some static materials and turn them into dynamic online games. You can use materials you may already have saved on your computer, or you can find materials on therapy resource sites and load them into the online whiteboard and turn it into a dynamic and interactive session activity. So it's very similar to what you could do on site with a student by playing a game or doing an activity on the table in your therapy room. This is that same idea, it's just that the game is now on the computer screen instead of on the table. And you can even do game boards here on the whiteboard. You can find images of game boards on the internet or on free resource sites. Then use the upload feature, like we've reviewed, to populate the game board directly onto your whiteboard space like this. We have an example of a colorful game board that I just found on the internet for free. I saved the picture to my computer and then uploaded it here. And this was a plain game board, and I used the icon finder to add images to each space for practicing the SH phoneme. Now I can play with my student. We can use the icon finder to get characters for our gameplay. Maybe we could choose different colored cars for our game pieces. Then I can use an online spinner if I would like to make it interactive. You can have this open in a separate tab or window. You could do a Google search for a free online spinner. Here is one from Super Teacher Tools that is even customizable. You can also do a search for a free online dice roller. This example is from the site online-stopwatch.com, but there are various ones out there that you can choose from. And so here I can let the student take turns to spin the wheel or roll the dice and see how many spaces they get to move. When they land on that space, then they can practice the word, put it in a sentence, whatever I need them to do to work toward their goals. And of course, this is just one example for articulation, but you can individualize this for the specific goals your student needs to work toward. And you can use different types of game boards. Here's another one, for example. And here I have used the shape tool to create some rectangles or cards. And I really just created one rectangle and then copied and pasted to make all of these cards quickly and easily. I also used the text feature to hide words behind each card. And this could be anything you want it to be. You could also hide pictures here behind the cards. So, for example, I've included various exercises that a PT might have a student practice during the session. When it's the student's turn, they can pick any card they like, select the card, and click to delete. Then they can practice the exercise and they get to move their character on the game board. Once again, you can really tailor this to your student and his or her goals. Maybe we have pictures of faces behind each card showing different emotions, and the student has to identify the emotion or provide an example of a situation that might cause that emotion. It's completely up to you. You can also use this same type of card setup to create a matching activity. And it's the same concept of an item being hidden behind another item. Just create two of each item so that they match. And once you're done playing the game, you don't have to recreate everything you've deleted. Simply use the handy undo button and keep clicking until your game setup is completely restored. Another very handy tip here is to use the locking feature when needed. So if you set up a game board with movable pieces or tokens on top, you don't want to accidentally move your game board as you move the characters. So you can click on the game board or any other item you may want to remain in place and click to lock it. That way it won't easily be moved or deleted by accident. Then you can always come back and edit the item by unlocking it later if needed. It is a little bit of work on the front end to create these activities, but you can use the creation of the activity as a therapy task with your student. So having them help you to create the games and materials can offer great opportunities for practice, and it can also help them to be more invested in the activities. Plus, you can use these games and materials over and over with various students, so you can really get a lot of use out of it. You can even get really creative and make some scenes on the board with your student. Maybe you create a birthday scene, like this example, using the icon finder. And just like with the card game idea, you could hide things behind the presents so that you and your student can take turns opening them by selecting and deleting the gift boxes. That's just another idea for using the icon finder, but you can really let your imagination go wild. And the last feature that I will mention here is incorporating a Google image search. This particular type of whiteboard has a Google image search feature here in the toolbar, and it's a really handy way to add real images to your online whiteboard. So you can type in anything you would like to look for in the search bar, and it will come up with tons of different options. You can select an item and it will automatically populate on your whiteboard. You might use this as a writing prompt for OT as you're addressing fine motor skills, or you could use this task to target language skills. You could create a text box here and practice using descriptive language to describe the bird. You might select another picture of a different bird and work on comparing and contrasting them. Or you could upload several pictures of various items and categorize them on the board. You could display a picture scene for discussion to target social language concepts and inferencing. You could talk with the student about what the people in the picture might be feeling or thinking and predict what might happen next. The options are endless, and you can really individualize the activities for your particular session or student and their particular goals. So, I hope that gives you some inspiration to go and get creative with your online sessions. And be sure to check out the eTherapy resources to get all of our eTherapy original materials. You can access these quickly and easily from the eTherapy website at electronic-therapy.com. And don't forget to follow eTherapy on social media. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get free teletherapy tips and tricks and to stay in the loop on all the important eTherapy and special education news. We look forward to seeing you there soon.